Thank you, thank you. Man, what an awesome introduction. Yeah, it's great to be here. I can't see you because I'm blinded by the lights, but I'm sure there are lots of people there. It's great to be back. Yeah, this is my, I think, sixth Laracon India or something, and it's one of my favorite conferences. And yeah, it's nice to see all of you here. Yeah, today I'll be talking about implementing multi-tenancy in Laravel. For those that don't know me, I'm Freek Van der Herten. I am a partner and a developer at a Belgian company called Spatie. I have my own blog, freek.dev, where I write articles about PHP and Laravel, and I also post a monthly newsletter there. I'm also active on the socials, X and Blue Sky. You can see my account there. Together with my team, I work on a couple of things. The first one is Flare, which is the best exception tracker for Laravel applications. I also work on ODIR, which is an uptime tracker, and it can do a lot more checks. One of the most popular checks that ODIR does is our crawl check. So we don't only check your homepage, but we will actually follow every link on your site and report when any of the pages is down. I also work on Mailcoach, which is an email marketing platform. I'll show you a bit of code behind that service in this talk. And the last thing that my team and I work on is Ray, which is a little debugging helper, which I also show during my talk. But you probably know us best from our open source work. We have created now, I think, about 400 packages, mainly for the PHP and Laravel community, which are widely used. So in this slide, I've summed up the total download count. So we started actually 10 years ago, and at the end of 2015, we had 100,000 downloads. Last year on the Laracon India stage, I said that we would hit 1 billion downloads very soon, and a couple of months after Laracon, we did. Thank you. Thank you. And I've checked right before the talk how many downloads that we have now, and now we have 1.5 billion downloads, which I think, thank you. Which I think is quite amazing, because people think that Spatie is a big company, but we're only with 10 people, so this is like a nice achievement for us. Thanks. So who here is using a Spatie package? Yeah, that's kind of mind-boggling to me. So most of these packages are free, but there's a special license on them called postcardware, which means if you use our package, you should send us a postcard. We get postcards daily to our office. We have a physical wall where we hang them, so our team can enjoy them. And we also have a virtual postcard wall that you can visit online, so you can enjoy the postcards as well. There's a little contest on there. We have the top 3 sending countries there. India isn't in there. So here's a little challenge. When I'm back next year, I want India to be on the first place. So if you all send me one postcard, you'll get ahead of the pack very soon. So keep those postcards coming. So with that out of the way, let's talk a little bit about multi-tenancy. So I'm going to talk about how to implement it in a Laravel application. We're going to do that with a small demo application, and I'll also show you how we did it for our SaaS, which is called Mailcoach, and I'll use a package of ours called Laravel Multitenancy. So very quickly, what is multi-tenancy? That is just ensuring that your app can be used by multiple parties, or also called interchangeably tenants or teams. Maybe you want to use separate databases, maybe you want to use separate caches and queues. How are you going to set it up? And Tom Schlick did an excellent Laracon talk a few years ago on the benefits and drawbacks of each approach. I'm just going to focus on the technical implementation, and for the drawbacks for each of the strategies, watch Tom Schlick's talk. So, first, let's talk about the multi-tenancy package itself. It's a free package, or just one postcard, which I think is a very low cost price for this. And it's a standardized ways to go about multi-tenancy. There are lots of ways you can implement this. But we at Spatie, we like to standardize things, that we do the same approach in multiple projects. And when we want to do that, we mostly package our approach just up so we can reuse it. Multi-tenancy is actually, it sounds like a heavy subject, but the package itself is very lightweight. It's easy to install. And yeah, we use it for every project that uses multi-tenancy. And it works for both single and multi-database applications. So what does this package do in a nutshell? So when a request comes in, it will determine what should be the current tenant or team for this request or for this job. When we've decided, hey, this team should be the active one, we can define tasks that should be executed to make that tenant the current one. And there are also convenience methods, so you can easily retrieve, like, this is the current tenant or the current team. And everything that I'm going to say and more is documented on our documentation site. So I've mentioned that the package can work with multi and single DB setups. How does that look like? So if you have a shared database, you have only one copy of all of your tables, and you probably would put in team ID or tenant ID in each column that holds information for multiple tenants. And on the other side, you have the approach that you have a database per tenant. That's maybe good if you want to split the data even more. And then each tenant has their own copy of the entire database. You don't need to slap on team ID, but you need to just choose the right database to use. And in this talk, I'll present use cases for both. So let me demo this package to you. So I have a little demo application running here. It's a little bit small. Let me make it a little bit bigger. So this is running on tenant1.test, and you can see that the active tenant is tenant1, and I retrieved here the first email from the users table there, and it's this user, tenant1 at example.com. I also have here the tenant2 website open, which points to the same code base, but it just uses a different database. Here you can see that tenant2 is active, and the first user email is tenant2 at example.com. Let me show you the databases behind this single application that uses these three databases. So we have one database called the landlord, and that holds the information about the tenants themselves. So here we have a tenants table. Here you have the name of the tenant. That's what you just saw in the browser. You can see that tenant1 lives on the tenant1 test domain, and it uses this database. And next to the landlord database, we have the tenant database themselves, which hold the information for a specific tenant. Each tenant has their own users database. In the tenant1 database, the first user at tenant1 example.com, and in the second one, we have, of course, tenant2 example.com. And I want to stress that this is the same Laravel application that uses these three databases. Let's go over to PHP Storm and show you some of the code being used here. So this is the application that drives what you just saw in the browser. So what I first want to show you is the database configuration. We actually have two connections here set up. The landlord connection that goes to the landlord database. You can see here that the name is multi-landlord. And we also have a tenant connection here. And the important thing to note here is that the database name is empty. We are going to dynamically fill this config value by taking a look at the request. So if we are on tenant1, then we should activate the first tenant. So let me show you how the package fills up this value. So the package itself also has a config file here called multi-tenancy. And the first thing that you need to fill in here is the tenant finder. And the tenant finder is a class that is responsible for retrieving the right tenant for this request. If I open it up here, then you can see that we will just use the host to find the correct tenant. This will resolve to the tenant model that is in the database, and we're just going to find the tenant which domain matches the host. And again, in the database here, in the landlord database, you can see that we have those domains lined up here. So that's how we choose which tenant is the active one. It's just a simple class that does that. Whenever we found a tenant, we are going to perform certain tasks to make that tenant the current one. And in this case, we are just going to switch out the tenant database. So we are going to fill out the value that is here. So if I go to switch database task here, it's a simple task. And here you can see that we are going to set the tenant connection database name to the database name of the tenant. And that again is what we have here in the database. Now let's take a look at the view that is powering the page that you just saw. It's a modified welcome view here. So let me maybe put this side by side. Hopefully my screen is big enough. So here you can see that the tenant name, tenant 1 here, is being rendered by this piece of code. If we have a current tenant, then we are going to display its name. And to drive this point here, tenant, that is just a model here, which has a trait on it, so it uses the landlord connection. And then we are going to fetch out a user, and a user is just a model here. You can see that it uses the tenant connection here, so we get the user from the right database here. And the nice thing about this approach here is that, yeah, you can't make any mistakes here because you've already selected the right tenant and made it active. Wherever you use the user, it will come from the right database. So it's a very simple approach here. But the package doesn't stop there, because we don't only have web requests, right? We also have jobs. And to demonstrate this, I'm going to start Horizon here. I'm going to start the queues and show you the web view. So the web view has also another route called dispatch. And what it will do is it will just dispatch a job here. Now, I've talked to you that we use the requests to determine which tenant is the active one. But in a job, we don't have a request, right? So what a package does is, in a request where a tenant is the active one, and if you, in that request, dispatch a job, the package will make sure that inside that job, that tenant is also the active one. So let me show you here an example job. So it doesn't do anything, it will just display the current tenant name and the user first name. And again, I don't need to take care of anything tenant related here, it will just do the right thing. So if I open up array here, this is a little function that will just display this string in array. And if I go, I have a link here, I think, yeah, dispatch job to visit this. Then you can see that we, in the route of the tenant 1, tenant 1 was made active, and in that job, tenant 1 is active too, and we displayed the correct user here. So we didn't need to do anything, the package just made the right tenant the active one. There's also a third thing that the package can do, and that is that it will make Laravel commands or artisan commands tenant aware. So imagine that you have a command that you want to run for each tenant. How are you going to do that? This is just a very simple test command. And yeah, if I would run this, then this would crash. Let me actually run this. I haven't done this. But I'm pretty sure it will crash because there is no current tenant. Attempt to read property name on null. How would we run a command for each tenant? Well, the package has a solution for that as well. There's a command that it offers you, namely tenants artisan. And here, that A here in my command here, that is just alias to PHP artisan. I have that alias for the longest time, so I don't have to type this. But the important thing is here, tenants artisan. This will actually accept another command name, in this case app.test. And what it will do is it will loop over all of the tenants in your database, it will make it active, and then it will execute a command. So this will make a non-tenant aware command tenant aware. So if I would run this, I'm going to see running the command for tenant 1, running the command for tenant 2, and I get the output for all the tenants here. This can be used, for example, for making even Laravel commands that are not tenant aware, and I have an example for that as well. So I have a little migration here that will add the last name to the users table. So the users table is a table in the tenant database in this example, and let me just move it in the right migrations directory here. And to do this, I thought I had something I could copy here, but I also have it in my notes. I think only migrations, it's this one. Let me move back to the tenants. So here I'm going to execute PHP artisan. I'm going to use the tenants artisan command provided by the package, and then I'm going to use the standard Laravel command to perform the migration, and I'm going to use the tenant database connection for this. And if I execute this, then the tenants will have run twice, or I should say more correctly, once for each tenant in our database. So if I refresh this one here now, we have a last name column here. So that is how you would go about having migrate a multi-database setup. So that is in short what the package does. It can determine the active tenant via the tenant finder, and it allows you to define tasks that need to be performed when making a tenant the active one. I've said here, or I demonstrated switching out the database, but maybe you could also prefix the cache or switch route cache or switch disks or whatever you like. A database task is just a class that implements the switch tenant task interface, and the most important method is the make current method, where you can put logic that needs to be performed when a tenant is made the active one. Okay, let me go back to the slides here and check my time. I'm still good. Okay, that's the first part of the talk where I showed you the basics of using the package. Let me now show you how we added that to Mailcoach. And I see this is bothering me. I made a typo here. Sorry about that. Multi-tenancy. That's what it should read. So I'm going to show you Mailcoach, but I think in order to understand the example, I want to show you the interface of Mailcoach first, so you know the type of application we're working with. So Mailcoach is an all-in-one platform for all things email. It can send email campaigns such as newsletters. We have customers in there that use Mailcoach to send out mails to millions of subscribers. It can also do email automations, stuff like if somebody subscribed, maybe after an hour send them a welcome mail. If they click a certain link, send them another mail. And it can also send transactional mail for your Laravel application. So you have a log in there for every mail that your application has sent, and it can even do open and click tracking in those transactional mails as well. The special thing, commercially speaking, about Mailcoach is that we have very affordable pricing, because we price on the amounts of mail sent and not like most of our competitors on the size of your list. For if you're targeting Europe, you'll be happy to know that Mailcoach is fully GDPR compliant. It is hosted on EU infrastructure, and even all the services that we use are owned by EU companies. So let me give you a quick, very quick demo of Mailcoach itself, because I don't want this to be a sales talk. So the interface of Mailcoach looks like this, and here you can see campaigns, automations, and transactional, the three big pillars. It all starts with lists, where you have lists of subscribers. This is locally running on my machine with all seeded data, because I don't want to expose private email addresses. So you have a list. You can send out newsletters to people of that list. This one doesn't have tracking, but this one has, so we can have tracking like who opens this, who clicked on which link. We also have those automations here. Here's an example automation where if somebody subscribes, we're going to wait for a day, then we're going to send a mail, and if a certain link has clicked, then we're going to send an extra mail. And this is all configurable in the UI. And there's also transactional mail log here that can have opens and clicks. Now, for this talk, the most important bit is this. The cloud version of Mailcoach is multi-tenancy aware. You can have multiple teams there. Here I am on my team, and you can see that we use the subdomain here, Freek, at mailcoach.app to determine which tenant is the active one. So if I go to the team of my colleague Niels here, you can see that we are switching to this URL here. And to drive the point, if I go to Freek here again, then I'm on Team Freek. So that's what I want to show for Mailcoach, Mailcoach itself. Let's go back to the slides. So we have actually two editions of Mailcoach. We have a hosted version and we have a self-hosted one. The hosted one is the one that lives on mailcoach.app. You can sign up there. It has themes, so it is tenant aware because we have multiple clients and each client has their own theme. We use a single database here in this approach. And as a user of the hosted version of Mailcoach, there's no technical knowledge needed. It's just a service. The second edition is a self-hosted one, and it comes in the form of a package that you can install into your own Laravel application. And you might want to do this if you want to have like tight integration with your Laravel application. Maybe you want to use the Mailcoach models directly. That could be a use case for doing this, or to have less cost because you run it all on your own infrastructure. Now, the self-hosted package is not tenant aware. It does not have themes at all. Now, this is to drive the point home. So our service, Mailcoach.app, really is, it uses the self-hosted version, the package behind the scenes, and we added billing and themes on top of that. So what you should remember is that at the core of our hosted service, there lives our own package that we're selling as well. So, Mailcoach self-hosted is not tenant-aware. Our service is. So how did we make our self-hosted package multi-tenancy aware? Now, Mailcoach itself is very configurable. Anything can be overridden there. You can customize it like crazy. If you know our packages, that you know that I highly value that people can change some of the behavior there. I think that's the secret why our packages are quite popular, because people can modify them a little bit to our needs. And so Mailcoach itself is very configurable. And we also used in our service our multi-tenancy package. And we make use of global scopes in Laravel. So I've talked a lot about this. Let's show a little bit of code. So I'm going to open up the source code of Mailcoach itself here. So what we're talking, or what you're seeing here, is now the code of our hosted service itself. if I go to the composer.json here, then you can see that we use our own multi-tenancy package, and we use our paid Mailcoach package here as well. Where is it? A lot of Mailcoach here. Yeah, here we use Laravel Mailcoach here. So if I go to the config file of Mailcoach itself here, so of the Mailcoach package, then you can see that it allows you to override all of the models here. So if I go and take a look at what default models that Mailcoach uses, so if I go to maybe email list here, then you can see that it uses the model email list that is included in the package itself. But let me jump back to the config file here. We override that with a model of our own. This is the email list model that just lives in the source code of our application here. And you can see that we extend the model that is provided by the package. This allows us to introduce new functionality. And you can see that we have a trait in here called belongs to team. Let's take a look inside of that. So here we are going to add a global scope to the email list model, or any email or any model that uses the belongs to team method. In that team scope here, and scope is an interface provided by Laravel, we can define how we should modify our query so that it can be used for the current team. And here you can see that we are going to add an extra query here. We are going to add an extra clause to our query. So we are going to add a new where statement. We are going to add a where statement to just fetch the records for the team that is the active one. And here the team model of Mailcoach itself, you can see that it extends the tenant model that is provided by our multi-tenancy package. So a team and a tenant is the same here. So this is how we make sure that every query we use for the email list model when a tenant is active one will fetch the records for the right team. Let's jump back to the trait here. We'll also add a little bit of logic when we're saving some stuff on the belongs to team models. We are going to add the team ID here for the current team whenever we're saving. So we're basically just using a feature of Laravel itself, the global scopes. And yeah, that's what I want to say about this one. If you have queries that should be used for when you want to go over all of the email lists of all of your tenants or teams. I think it's called without global scopes, without scopes. I forgot the name. Without global scopes. And I think, here's an example of where we need to loop over all the email lists for all of the teams, and you can just use without global scopes to just fetch it for all of the teams. Let me show you one more thing in this application. So if I go to the multi-tenancy config file here in Mailcoach, then you can see that we use the tenant finder here as well, and we have some extra logic here to fetch out the subdomain and find out if we have an active team for that one. So we just use that tenant finder just like I showed you in the previous application. And if you take a look at the tasks, we have some more tasks that we should execute when a team is made the current one. Let me show you this one, prefix bucket tasks. So this is a task that will make sure that the disks of all of that our users use in this application will use a prefix of the UID of the team. So each team has their own root directory on a disk. And by doing this here in a task, wherever we perform our actual business logic, we don't need to think about it. We can just use the correct disk. So again, this is just making use of the package by adding some custom tasks here. So that's how easy it is to use. Let me go back to my slide here. So what did we do in Mailcoach, the application to make Mailcoach the package multi-tenancy aware? We overrode all of our models. We added the global scope on there. Whenever we needed to execute queries where we don't need those scopes, we can use without global scopes. And we used the power of Spatie Laravel multi-tenancy package to make all of this, this work. So implementing multi-tenancy in Laravel, it's not that hard, and there are a lot of ways to go about this. I showed you a way to do it with multiple databases, a way to show it with one database. There are advantages and drawbacks for each approach, which are discussed in Tom Slick's Laracon talk. So again, how does the multi-tenancy package work? We determine the current tenant, we perform tasks to make that tenant the current one. We have some convenience methods to work with the active tenant. We can check if there is an active tenant, which is the active tenant, also to forget the active tenant, which is also needed in some cases. And the package can do a whole lot more, and it's all documented on our documentation site. The little demo application that I used in the first part of my talk, I also put it on GitHub so you can view it there as well. If you want to try out Mailcoach, got a little gift for you. There's a coupon code there, so you can use Mailcoach 3 months for free. If you want to know more about that, just come find me after the talk. And that is all I have for you this year. I hope that, that you like this, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you. There's nobody here. I don't know any jokes. But Vishal is there with the jokes.
Hello. Yep. I was wondering what to ask because I was keep checking Twitter and you have, let me check again. You have more than 43 questions.
Okay.
So it's so difficult for me to ask which number because I also prepared my own questions from the talk. But we'll do something different because we have a gift also. So you have to pick any question among them. And let's do it.
And I have to pick it here on stage. I'm just going to pick here the first one. Does the package allow working simultaneously with multiple tenants to build a back-end environments to manage the multi-tenant application? Whoa, that's a complex question. So working with simultaneous with multiple tenants, I guess you could do that. By just looping over the tenant's data, all the tenants you have, and you can actually call a method on there, make current, and then it will make that record the current one. Just do your work, and then make the next one where you want to do something the current one. That's how you would do it.
Yeah, perfect. There were a couple of questions also asked about security as well.
Yeah, sure.
So maybe you can just speak with them later on.
Yeah.
One of the interesting question which recently I was thinking about it because when I got your 138th newsletter, so there was a thing which was so interesting because you maintain all the newsletters so precise and every time it's so good. So one of the question was like, how do you maintain, like making sure that the newsletter content, how do you make sure that the content along with each newsletter is so different? So,
yeah, there are a couple of approaches there. So yeah, I like reading about web technology. So I have like a big list of blogs that I follow in my RSS reader. And whenever I find something very interesting, I just make a little note of it. I should add this to my newsletter. That's my first source. So my own RSS feeds. At Spatie, we use Slack to communicate internally. And there's a channel in there called Interesting Links. and that's where my team shares all of the links that they find interesting, and that's also another source of me. And the third source is actually the community. So everybody here can just submit a link like, hey, this could be worthy for including on the blog or the newsletters. And I get links daily of that. And I also, read those. And if there's something very interesting there, I also pick it for that newsletter. So I have basically 3 big feeds coming continuously at me where I can just select the content that I find interesting. And I'm not so different than you, I think. You, like me, you also want to learn. It's just picking the things that just that I find interesting, and I guess that people that follow what I do will also find that interesting. And it turns out that's a pretty good strategy.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks. And we need to have big round of applause for you, because he has been not only speaking for the 3rd time. Every year Freek also support with a sponsorship. This year also he has sponsored like in 2 different companies as well. So every year you come here, you travel, you support the community. Anytime, anything we need, you are always there for us. So thank you very much on behalf of entire India. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Where's gift?
Bye, Brenda.